In the Scottish Highlands, winter is a physical obstacle. The scale of these mountains and the depth of the snow create a landscape that is as beautiful as it is difficult to navigate. Arthur lived within this environment for 40 years. As the village postman, he was a constant presence, his identity inseparable from his uniform and his route. He carried thousands of letters through these winters, ensuring the village remained connected even when the mountain passes were nearly blocked by snow. In a social network, Arthur acted as the central hub. Communication flowed from him to every home in the village, but for decades that flow was strictly one way. At the end of every shift, he returned to a small cottage at the edge of the forest. He lived in the same silence he helped others avoid. His life was defined by this contradiction. He spent his days facilitating connection for others while maintaining a solitary routine for himself. That routine was interrupted one morning when Arthur found an object on his kitchen table that he hadn't placed there. It was a thick purple envelope against the old wood table. It lacked the elements required for delivery. No name, no address, no stamp. Without postage or an address, it hadn't come through the mail. Someone had walked into his home and left it for him to find. For the first time in 4 decades, the postman wasn't the one carrying the message. He was the one receiving it. When he opens the envelope, he didn't find a letter. Instead, a heavy piece of metal fell onto the table with a loud ringing sound. It was a golden key. Under the light, a small number was visible, etched roughly into the side of the key, number 12. In Glenmore, number 12 is the old stone house at the top of the hill, a building that has been empty for years. This was Arthur's childhood home. It had been locked and abandoned since he was a young man. Arthur didn't know who else had a copy of this key, or why they wanted him to return to a house closed for 40 years. He walked up the steep hill through a freezing wind. The only sound was the dry crunch of snow beneath his boots. Every step toward the house felt heavier. He was balancing the memory of his childhood with the fear of what he might find inside. Finally, the house appeared through the snow. Its wooden door was gray and cracked, showing the wear of 40 winters. Arthur prepared himself for what he usually found in abandoned places: deep, dark shadows, freezing cold air, and the smell of old dust. His hand shook as he put the key into the lock. It turned with a heavy metallic click. Opening that door meant confronting 40 years of isolation. The door opened, and a warm, golden light spilled out across the snow. The air didn't smell like an old house. It smelled of cinnamon and hot tea. A bright fire was burning in the hearth, crackling loudly enough to be heard all the way from the doorway. On the table sat a single cup of tea, with steam rising into the air as if it had just been poured. Someone had been here moments before he arrived, preparing the room and lighting the fire. Next to the tea was a small note, written by hand. The note read, "Welcome home, Arthur. You spent 40 years delivering happiness to our doors. Now it's our turn to open a door for you." While Arthur was focused on his deliveries, the village was focused on him. They had watched him walk these hills for 40 years, and they coordinated this effort to return his childhood home to him. Arthur walked to the window and looked down at the village. He could see the warm lights of the homes he visited every day of his life. The network he spent a lifetime building was finally working in reverse. The connections he made were flowing back to him, lighting up the center of the map. A lifetime of service had created a community that wouldn't let him be alone. Arthur was no longer just a delivery man. He was home.